Good afternoon and welcome. This is Market View, the Tuesday edition. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Lungelele Makakwela. You can watch us on our YouTube page. We are at Eswatini TV. We are on DSTV as well, channel 286. Thank you for tuning in. Coming up on the program today, business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla sits down with the group managing director Dumisani Msibi to find out how businesses can avoid blacklisting and how this can be avoided. This follows that about 300 businesses out of 16,000 have been blacklisted by FinCorp for failing to honor their payment obligation. On our final segment, today Sanele Sbia will connect with us via Zoom for today's financial update. And for our lead story today, Eswatini will finish paying off the about 2 billion Emalangeni, $110 million loan from the International Monetary Fund, which was taken at the height of COVID-19 3 years ago. Let's go straight to our first story. The Eswatini Funeral Practitioners Association is now linking up with other international associations as far as the United States of America to ensure Emaswati get assistance in this business with reduced costs across the globe. Libo Mnisi from the South African Funeral Practitioners Association says this is not just a business but a way of supporting families that have lost their loved ones.
Eswatini is surrounded largely by South Africa. We've got Mpumalanga province, we've got KwaZulu-Natal province, and immediately there is Gauteng. It's so important that we partner with them because as Swazis, we work in South Africa. We've got relatives in South Africa. The South Africans have relatives in Swaziland. So it's important that we partner with them to assist each other during funerals, to assist each other on policies, because they've got also policies. And as a country and us still learning in the funeral trade, we will get experienced from South Africa to understand what is happening. In South Africa already there are training programs for the funeral industry.
Edith Churchman from the National Funeral Directors and Morticians Association from the United States of America shares why networks are important in this business.
One of the wonderful things about this association, forming this association going forward, is the opportunity to regulate funeral service in Eswatini and to make a good collaboration with not only the Funeral Directors Association, but with government and with various government departments for the betterment of funeral service and for the betterment of professionalism and care for the Eswatini people.
Libo Mnisi from the South African Funeral Practitioners Association says collaboration will reduce costs.
Definitely, it will. If I can make you an example, moving a body from Joburg to Swaziland, you need embalming, you need this and that. If you have link in South Africa, it makes the cost cheaper. Like what we are promoting as an association. If you're helping your fellow member, there are basic charges that you do which are regulated, and once you become a member of that association, you get to benefit all of those. And at the end, the families are benefiting at the end of it because the costs are going to be lower and lower as we work together.
The Eswatini Funeral Practitioners Association is a newly formed association that houses 22 funeral home parlors out of 25 in the country. For Market View, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbambane.
Eswatini will finish paying off the about 2 billion Emalangeni, which is equivalent to $110 million loan from the International Monetary Fund, which was taken at the height of COVID-19 3 years ago. This was said by the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Rackenberg, when sharing details of the discussions they had during a meeting with the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in Washington, United States this week.
The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund had their annual meetings this week in Washington, and the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Rickenberg, and a team from Eswatini were in attendance. We asked the Minister of Finance on some of the deliberations and how they will impact Eswatini.
If one will recall, in Eswatini, we had a crisis during COVID, and we got a rapid loan from the IMF for 110 million US dollars. This money is very quick to get if you're in a crisis, but at the same time, you've got to repay it quickly. So right now, we're busy repaying that loan as Eswatini, and by the end of 2025, we will have finished repaying that loan from the IMF. The World Bank, though, is really different. It helps us in Eswatini very much with a lot of our projects. They just supply funding for projects that we'd like to do. So at the moment, we have projects, the electricity project going from that line from Hlangano to Lavomisa. It was an 11 kVA line. It's now going to 132 kVA line. Those big power lines, once he's coming up there, they're helping us with a loan for that. They're doing water projects also there towards Mhlosheni, Zombotsa area, the big water project going on there. They are the ones funding that. It's an education project, a health project.
The minister has also highlighted that they want to explore means to broaden the tax base instead of increasing taxes in the country.
We meet with subcommittees of both of these entities, so we're discussing possible new loans. At the same time, we are just having discussions with the World Bank of restructuring our debt, possibly moving it from US dollar debt into ZAR, which means South African rands, which would help us a lot in the sense that our currency is obviously linked to the rand. So it might be slightly more expensive, but at the same time, it takes out the currency risk. So we're having very good discussions with them around that. So at the moment, both the World Bank and the IMF are really great at helping us with assistance when it comes to capacity building. How can we really try and broaden our tax base rather than increase taxes in Eswatini? How can we try and make sure that our departments are better run? What legislations are we trying to bring in? And we've had good meetings around what we can structure around that. We also have constituency meetings, meaning that at the IMF and the World Bank, we have a group, an Africa group, that we stand together on. Because at both of these entities, there's only 25 chair people, people at the board, looking at the countries and the loans that are being distributed. And so we are represented as Africa in different forums at the table at these meetings. And so we also have meetings as our constituencies while we are here to just strategize and to make sure we do the right thing from that perspective.
The Minister for Finance is also chairing the Ministers of Finance at the African Union. Honorable Neil Rickenberg also attended the G20 meeting where Ministers of Finance were in discussion on better finance solutions for countries, which will also have an impact on Eswatini. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
It's 8 minutes after 2, and that's it for our business news this afternoon. We'll go for an ad break. When you come back, Nelson sits down with FinCorp Director Tumsani Msibi.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 76222000 or dial *007 *3 *7#, or you can use Eswatini Imali. You can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sikhulume
Welcome back. You're still watching Market View. This is the Tuesday edition. Thank you for staying with us. About 300 businesses out of 16,000 have been blacklisted by FinCorp for failing to honor their payment obligation. Business journalist Nosiwe Nhlangamandla sits down with the Group Managing Director Dumsani Msibi to find out how businesses can avoid blacklisting.
MD, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us on the show. We have received information that some businesses have been blacklisted by FinCorp. Please explain to us what happens before a business can be blacklisted.
Where there is a default, there's always engagement with the client. We always encourage those that have received loans from us that if they have challenges, they come forward, they engage, and we agree on a payment plan. And this happens every day for those that have faced challenges. And in doing so, we also do our best to follow the law and to follow the agreements that we shall have signed with the borrowers. So in terms of the loan agreement that we sign, from day one, it is very clear that if you default in excess of over a period of 3 months without engaging with FinCorp, FinCorp is fully entitled to then flag that breach at ITC. That is the first point. But what we must also appreciate, that listing is at various stages. So when you have defaulted, you will receive a letter to say you are now in breach of your contract. And the letter will make reference to the contract and or the agreement that you signed. That if then you do not make good of the breach within a period of 14 days, then we shall then use the option that is available to list. So our saying, it comes at different levels. So some people are listed as tracing. So somebody has defaulted, disappeared, you can't find that person, you list and you say client being traced. Some have defaulted with no show, you list, it's a default. Some have taken up to full litigation. and they still are not in a position to meet their obligations. And therefore, they end up being listed. But the most important thing here, which one has to point out, is if you have been blacklisted and you now want to come out of blacklisting, you have to approach FinCorp, engage and present your payment plan. And removal from ITC blacklisting is instant, but we have to agree on the repayment plan.
How many businesses have you blacklisted as FinCorp MD, if I may ask?
Okay, so let's start off. The portfolio as we speak, money that is sitting with the citizens, is 1.6 billion. And that represents 16,000 clients. But clients that have been listed to date, according to our records, are plus minus 300 clients. So I suppose it's an opportunity to extend a word of thanks to all the 15,700 clients who are servicing their loans, and would encourage them to do so to avoid the concern that we are discussing here. Thank you very much.
I want to know who is blacklisted. I have my colleague here, for example, he comes to FinCorp, he borrows a loan, I stand in as his surety. Who is blacklisted? Is it him? Or if he fails to pay, I am also blacklisted, because that is the information that we have received, that FinCorp has also blacklisted even the people that have come as surety.
Okay. When it comes to sureties, I think we must also be clear, and people must understand what does it mean to be a surety. And I must explain this. When you come through and you say, I will be a surety for this particular borrower, you are jointly and severally binding yourself with the principal borrower. So you are saying, when this person defaults, I will stand in and pay. That's a prayer. You make that prayer. I will stand in and pay. So when then the principal borrower defaults, all we have as an obligation on our side is to bring it to your attention, write to you, and say, as surety, the principal borrower has defaulted and we have exhausted all possible means to collect. We've failed. As a surety, we give you notice now that you have to stand in and honor the obligation. If not, due process then unfolds insofar as the surety is concerned. But I must hasten to indicate that we don't have too many cases of sureties. So it is in exceptional circumstances that we have a third party coming through and saying, I'll be a surety. And we have taken it to another level. So we also want to establish how the two people are linked or related, or linked insofar as the business is concerned, so that it is not just somebody coming off the street and they sign sureties. So we always want to establish the link. It's either they are partners in the business, or it's either they are directors in the company, or relatives. But it happens in very rare circumstances, because citizens on their own should be able to stand, file an application and get a loan. It does happen, but it is on exceptional circumstances.
Isn't it best then, MD, to repossess whatever asset that you have bought for that small and medium enterprise holder rather than blacklisting them? Because I feel that also reduces their chances of ever running a successful SME.
I like that example because that's our daily life. That's how we operate. So this is what we call asset-less finance. So if you are given a loan to acquire an asset, the asset is leased to you. It is security and collateral for the debt. And therefore, in the event of a default, we will engage with you. How do you make good of this debt? You've now defaulted. We'll give you a chance to make good if you can. If there is no positive response, we will take legal action so that we can repossess the asset. And then from there on, we will go and auction the asset. Again, following the law, it will be advertised, auctioned. But what we must be aware of, it is in very rare cases that you take the asset, you auction, you get the proceeds, and the debt is cleared. And there is a simple reason why that is not the case. Litigation takes time. And therefore, by the time you sell the asset, the person is heavily, heavily overdue on the debt. So once you sold, the law is very clear. You sell the asset, you credit the customer's account, you are left with the balance, and then you engage with the client in terms of the outstanding amount. And many a time, people say, you have sold my asset, I have no means of paying the residue, and I go back. There is a contract that has to be enforced. There is never a case that, oh, okay, stop paying. It will never get to that point. Remember, we are using funds that have been raised or borrowed elsewhere. So we are sitting here as an institution, we are indebted to the tune of 1.3 billion, that you must know. And we take that 1.3 billion, we give it to the citizens to finance their businesses. The expectation is that the clients will pay back so that we also honor our obligations with the funders. For your own information, we're financed by the African Development Bank, European Investment Bank, Northside Finance internationally. Locally, it's the pension funds, it's the stock exchange. So when you use all those platforms, as an institution, you have an obligation to fulfill the commitments that you face.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show, MD. Asethembe ukuthi eMaswati atawuchubeka abhadale njengoba uchazile ukuthi naye FinCorp kukhona lapho khona kufanele le mali bese uyayichubekisa ayimikise khona lapho ayiboleke khona kude amabhizinisi eMaswati achubeke nawo athuthuke singeva kusasa ukuthi awu so uyavalwa FinCorp. Thank you so much, MD.
All right, so still watching Market View. This is the Tuesday edition. We now want to connect with in-house economist Annette Sibia for today's financial market update. A very good afternoon, Mrs. Sibia. Thank you for tuning in. The U.S. elections are approaching in less than a week on the 5th of November. How are markets reacting to this?
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon to the viewer. So when we look at markets today, you can see that the US markets closed a bit higher yesterday, but we are waiting to see, how the earnings from the tech sector are going to play out. But the markets are a bit spooked today in the US purely because we've seen Ford coming out to say they didn't meet their quarterly targets in terms of the performance last month. But what we are looking into right now is there's a barrage of information of economic data that's going to be coming out. We have the weekly jobless claims. We have the non-farm payroll data coming out on Friday, which is going to give an indication of how the US economy is performing and what that would mean for interest rates. And yes, as you rightly put it, there is a bit of that elections uncertainty. And then when we move into the eurozone, you can see that the mood is upbeat in London. That follows positive earnings that were posted by HSBC, one of the biggest banks in London, and that has actually reverberated across the entire eurozone with the expectations that overall the mood is going to be good within Europe, and the bankers are actually offsetting losses that we're seeing happening in the miners and other sectors. And then when you go into Germany, what you are seeing there is, there is that new data that came out in terms of consumer sentiment. So consumer sentiments have actually also been on an upwards in Germany. And then again in the UK, we are still awaiting for that very first budget by the Labour Party that's going to come through. And then when we move into the Asian region, what we are seeing there is the Nikkei and the Hang Seng continue to be on an upbeat trend. That's purely because they're anticipating those positive knockoffs from those tech stocks as the data is going to start coming in. And then in mainland, what we are seeing is the earnings results came for one of the biggest oil manufacturers within the mainland, and those were not as good as the markets were hoping for. So I think that's what is now pulling the entire market down purely because there's that issue of weakening demand and the global demand also on the downwards spiral, and that has actually pulled down the profits from all those energy sectors companies. And then when we move into the South African region, you can see that the South African Stock Exchange, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, still remains pretty strong, but with some marginal losses. It's purely because markets are anticipating the medium-term budget to be tabled tomorrow by Minister Kondongwana. And what the expectation is we expect the budget that was presented in February to actually be on course, signaling that South Africa is moving forward with fiscal consolidation. So that's why the one we're watching out for tomorrow. And then when you look into the Eswatini Stock Exchange, we've not seen any changes within that market. And then when you look into the futures market, you will see that gold still is holding it steady at 2760. That's purely because there's still that lot of uncertainty that's happening within the US with the elections and also with the interest rate path. We are seeing, treasury yields and other treasury-related items are really improving their yields within the US. So that is why gold is continuing to hold it very high up there. And then when you look into the price of Brent crude, you can see that Brent crude is actually been very volatile in the past 2 weeks, purely because of that crisis in the Middle East, but it seems to be somewhat slowing down. But what we are seeing the markets indicating, like I've been saying, is more of a demand story. That China story has actually trickled into that entire story there, regardless of efforts coming in from the UN. Then also the US has also come out to say that, they are going to try and buffer up their reserves and release their reserves to buffer up the market, but still the market shows the fact that there isn't demand coming through. And then when you look into currencies, you can see that the Langen has actually lost ground, a bit of ground against the dollar and the euro, but gained marginally against the Japanese yen. So again, the story there is the uncertainty and the earnings report that they were waiting to see tomorrow, and those improving treasury yields across the US, and then of course the tensions in the Middle East and in Ukraine again We've heard that North Korea has also joined the fray. So there's just a lot of geopolitical tensions and a lot of moving elements within the global economy. Thank you, Lulu.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Bia, for today's financial markets update. And that's it for our business program today. This was a business market view for today's edition, Tuesday edition. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.